intro. All right, so next up we have Kevin Clair from Penn State University Libraries. He's presenting Using the Digital Objects module to Highlight Digital Collections. The Penn State University Libraries use a combination of Kaltura and Content DM with IIIF in order to provide access to their digital assets. In this presentation, Kevin will cover the strategies they have implemented in the ArchivesSpace public user interface to present digital materials to researchers using the Digital Objects module. This approach combines plugin development and local description strategies. In addition to the implementation details, Kevin will cover the ways in which processing workflows align with presentation strategy and the impacts that embedding digital materials in the ArchivesSpace public user interface have on digital collections discovery. Kevin will conclude by naming challenges that they have faced in making digital collections available, using these methods, future development in digital collection strategy, and things that will impact this work. Kevin, turn it over to you.
I need to have someone edit my descriptions for me. Sorry. Hi, I'm Kevin. I'm at the Penn State University Libraries in University Park. Good to see everybody here this morning. I'm going to talk about some stuff that we've been doing. Oh, oops. So it said the problem. I like the question better, which is we wanted to be able to, we're doing some site refreshes to our public user interface right now at Penn State, which you can go to at aspace.libraries.psu.edu. And we wanted to be able to display digital objects in the PUI in a way that if things we had were digitized, people would be able to see them before they came to request them, in case being able to see them would cancel their need to come to the reading room, or like seeing them would make them want to see stuff in the reading room. We just want to enhance access to our digital materials, or things that have been digitized, in a better way. We wanted to be able to do that regardless of format. So we wanted to be able to do that whether or not something was a scanned photograph, a scanned slide, whether it was audiovisual materials, whether it was PDFs. We have a few like real early on born digital materials that we just threw an Adobe PDF up there. We wanted to be able to try and do that too. So a way to kind of get those out there to keep people from having to ask if something was digitized and available online. Our current approach to this right now is, right now in ArchivesSpace, if you mess around with the X-Link attributes in a digital object in the staff interface, you can get the thumbnail to show up instead of the big red box with the caption on it. That's what we've been doing pretty much since I got to Penn State in 2019. We were doing that in my previous job at Denver before that. It's an approach I stole from the Denver Public Library. I don't know if anybody from DU or DPL is here, but if you're watching this later, thank you. That was great. So that's kind of what this looks like now. If you set the file URI in if you add a file version to a digital object and set the file URI to a JPEG, so like we have it pointing to Content DM's JPEG thumbnails, basically. And if you set the X-Link show attribute to embed, that will show up instead of the red box if you haven't done it before. So that's how we do this now. And we've done this for not enough of our digital objects, but enough that like people can see that slide of some bridge rivets on this particular object. And we do that across the board for, I would say probably at this point, probably 75% of the image collections that we have up right now in Content DM. Oops, other way. The shortcomings to this approach that we've encountered is that it pretty much only works for images. So when people ask, you have oral histories, can I listen to oral histories on the public user interface? Or can I watch some videos? We can't do that. Like, that's not an option with embedding as far as I know. What are the other issues? Yeah, and it doesn't allow for interaction with it's pretty much just a thumbnail. So you can see the thumbnail of the image there, but if somebody wanted to zoom in on particular details of it or like interact with the metadata, we don't fully describe our digital objects in ArchivesSpace. We use Content DM at Penn State, and we rely on the content. If people want to learn more about an image, they have to click through and see it there. So there's no way to see that metadata in ArchivesSpace. And we get a lot of questions from our reference archivists or from patrons who Like ArchivesSpace is not a digital asset management system, but users don't know that ArchivesSpace is not a digital asset management system. What we would like to do is trick users into thinking that ArchivesSpace is a digital asset management system using our public user interface. The additional wrinkle that we've run into is that so Penn State as an enterprise, like I think a lot of other academic libraries and universities, is moving to Kaltura as our audiovisual asset management system, like across the board, everybody. So we're doing that we're kind of replacing, in the past we had used Content DM as our streaming server, so like we had a lot of AV materials that OCLC was hosting for us, which eats up, the more of that stuff we put in Content DM, the more we have to pay OCLC every year. And that's money we're already paying Kaltura. So the idea is to kind of start moving, when we have new AV digitization projects, start putting that stuff in Kaltura and then embedding it in Content DM as if it was, like you can embed it as URLs in Content DM basically. And there's other institutions. If you're a Content DM user in the Content DM cookbook, there's a couple examples of other institutions who are doing that, who, again, we stole a bunch of code from. The University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee, I think, is really good at this. So we were thinking in our digitization, our digital projects team, like if we can do that in Content DM, can we not also try and do that in ArchivesSpace, because it's basically the same embed code. So that was the challenge that I had. There we go. So our solution that we hit upon was a couple different things. Content DM supports IIIF. So if you have a IIIF manifest and you embed it in a website one way or another, and if you then implement a IIIF viewer, it'll display the image, it'll display all the metadata. People can interact with it as if they were already on Content DM or any IIIF compliant repository. So we thought that we would try and, instead of that JPEG URL that presents the thumbnail image, could we drop a IIIF manifest URL and then have Mirador implemented one way or another and have people work with it that way. And then also just figure out a way to drop the Kaltura embed code into the file URI for a digital object in ArchivesSpace and get the Kaltura player to show up on our public site. Right now, we've done that. It's all contained in one plugin. I hope these slides are available later so you can click that link. It's not the best way to do this. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Like, it probably should be 2 plugins. Right now, it's 1 because it's easier for me. But that's how we've approached it so far. I'll talk a little bit about the journey that it took to get here. We tried Universal Viewer first for IIIF. It was, I think, Universal Viewer's JavaScript conflicts with something. I don't know if it's something deep in the guts of ArchivesSpace or if it's just Bootstrap, but Universal Viewer didn't work. Like, you couldn't see metadata, you couldn't view images sometimes. Mirador didn't really have any of those conflicts, so that's kind of why we picked it over the other IIIF viewers that are out there. It was just, it worked and it didn't break anything else in ArchivesSpace. Like, I could still scroll through a record and things. So that's kind of why we went that direction. We're still working out the best way to do Kaltura URLs that won't cause errors, because the Kaltura embed code, if you're trying to embed a Kaltura player in a website, the embed code is like gigantic, and it includes all these system variables that are the same for every video you want to post. So I don't want people to have to paste all that stuff into a digital object record or put all of that stuff into a spreadsheet that we then batch upload into ArchivesSpace. Like, I'm trying to limit errors when people are preparing spreadsheets for batch ingesting digital object records in the future. So we're still kind of working out what the good practice is for doing batch imports in the future. That's kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but I wanted to talk about how we got to this slide. The logic of the plugin is kind of, it runs through, it checks if your file URI contains one of two things. If it ends in manifest.json, it'll be like, oh, this is a IIIF manifest, and it will put it'll put the Mirador viewer on the digital object page or on the archival object page for an object to which the digital object is linked, so that you can see the Mirador viewer in both places. So it shows up in the digital object and any archival object that references it. If it instead contains Kaltura.com somewhere in the URL, it'll go and it'll find the Kaltura embed code that is in the plugin and present the viewer so that people can see it. If neither of those things are in place, it just rolls back to ArchivesSpace's defaults. My cast blocks the this is what it looks like on the public site. I'm not going to attempt a live demo. I decided not to. Again, there's a link is in the slides if you want to look later. On the right hand side where you would normally see a thumbnail, it's Mirador. Like, that's what a Mirador viewer looks like. We have it set up so you can see kind of the collection organization and click through to other things within this collection. By default, it will show that little left sidebar in the viewer. That's pulling from Content DM. So Content DM presents, sometimes it's Dublin core metadata, sometimes it's fuller than that. Like, sometimes it'll pull from that particular collection's metadata schema to display stuff, but it saves us from having to double enter metadata because it can just pull it from OCLC. And it's not present in this screenshot that I took, but if you scroll down, this is a compound object. So we digitized this entire folder of photographs from the Selma to Montgomery March. And if you scroll down, you can page through it and like click left, right, swipe and see all of the images that are in that particular folder. Our pattern for digitizing materials at Penn State for archival materials is we just scan. If we're doing a project, we don't really do item level processing description of the objects. We just we put up a folder. We digitize basically whatever matches the unit of archival arrangement and description is present in the collection. So like, this is a folder. Like, each day of the march is a folder, and that's how we present it in digital collections, and that's how we present it here as well. That's what Kaltura looks like. So it's pretty similar. So there's a little bit of a difference in Kaltura with single items versus playlists. So this is an oral history where it's presented in our digital collections. It's a cassette tape. The first one is side 1, the second one is side 2. So we have it presented in playlist form here. The way that playlists embed in Kaltura is slightly different from the way that single items embed in Kaltura. So that's something that when I get back, will need to write a lot of documentation about so that I don't mess it up, and so that people after me don't mess it up, because things break easily if you get the URLs wrong. I'm gonna scroll back a tiny bit. But that's a single video. That's one video, and pretend that's in the ArchivesSpace public user interface. It looks about the same. I took that screenshot from Kaltura, but it displays pretty much the same if it's embedded in the ArchivesSpace public user interface. Here is what I still have to do. The display logic is it's looking for substrings within the file URI, which is super prone to error. And so I'm trying to figure out if there's a way to mitigate that at all. There may not be, but it may just be something where when we start working with other archivists at Penn State, other people who are kind of outside of special collections, like in different constituent units of our digital projects team, or we're working more with our Commonwealth campus libraries across the state. We have 19 of them at Penn State. We are the holding archives for their archives at the campuses, but they also have their own physical climate-controlled archives at some of their locations, and they all use ArchivesSpace too. So as we kind of train them on getting their stuff to look like our stuff, just making sure that they're aware the viewer is particular. It's not a great design pattern that I've adopted where I have single plugins that are doing all sorts of different things. So it's probably a better idea if the Mirador plugin that I wrote and the Kaltura plugin, they should be separate. There should be a Kaltura viewer and a Mirador viewer on GitHub. I still need to figure out how to do that and how to do that in a way that they don't break one another. Right now it's one plugin and you can turn the Kaltura part on or off, and you can turn the Mirador part on or off depending on which one you have or don't have. Also, we need to update a lot of digital object URIs because we don't. Getting IIIF working with Content DM was kind of a saga that I don't want to talk about up here. So we haven't fully updated our URLs from like default.jpg from the thumbnail URLs to the IIIF manifest URLs. So that's going to take a lot of batch updating of a lot of digital objects so that everything looks the way that that Selma to Montgomery March photo folder looked like. I think that's it. Oops. Yes, that's it. So that's how to contact me. Thank you.